The defense and the rookies steal the show on day 2. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Lots to talk about coming out of day 2 of training camp practices, including some fun and interesting comments from Baker Mayfield, as well as more problems for the Buccaneers creeping up on the offensive line. All of that is coming up in a little bit. First and foremost, I said on yesterday's show that I would be joined by Rock Riley tonight. Unfortunately, he had something come up at the last minute, could not make it. We are working on getting it scheduled for Rock to appear on a show next week. So want to get him on here as soon as humanly possible, but that's why I am all by my lonesome on this episode instead of being joined by Rock as previously promised. But I wanted to start this show off with the big winners of Thursday's practice, and that was the defense and to some extent the rookies that are starting to shine a little bit early on. Evan Klosky talked on yesterday's episode about the defense winning the day. Antoine with a couple of interceptions, Bryce Hall with an interception, and the defense didn't let up on Thursday either. Yaya Diaby had a run where he would have had at least 3 sacks, according to Greg Allman of Fox Sports. Then Chris Braswell had a couple of sacks. Hall almost had another interception, but the ball was ripped loose at the end of the play. The defense got a big stop in a 2-minute drill to win that session. This is actually kind of the thing that I wanted to see early in camp. Evan talked about how, when one side throws a haymaker on one day, you want to see the other side of the ball come back and throw one the next day. I didn't really want to see that. I wanted to see the defense win again on Thursday. Look, we know the offense is going to get theirs. They are going to win the day on more than a few occasions during training camp. They're going to win the day on Sundays on more than a few occasions, but I wanted to see the defense get off to a hot start. If the defense is holding their own against this offense, even though it is without Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin, then we know they're going to be able to hold their own against some of the other offenses that the Bucs are going to face this season. And it's the variety of players that are stepping up and making plays. It's been Antoine and Hall, and then it was Diaby and Braswell. Morrison had a decent day. We're going to talk more about him in a little bit. It's the collective of players with different guys stepping up and making plays. It's not always the same guy. It's not always the same position group. So it's really encouraging to hear all these things about the defense early on. And yes, it is still shorts and helmets. The pads are going to come out a little bit later on, but it's a starting point for a defense that was not great last year, and they needed to have that good, fast start at camp in order to kind of restore a little bit of the confidence that they might have lost last year, create a starting point where, of where they are versus where they know they need to be. You still have some players on this defense that won a Super Bowl not that long ago. They know what it takes, and it's going to be on them. I'm talking Antoine, Vita, Levante, Anthony Nelson, Jamel Dean. It's going to be on them to show the younger guys and the newcomers, what is expected of a Super Bowl caliber defense. Todd Bowles had plenty of solid remarks about the defensive side of the ball. about Diaby and Braswell racking up a bunch of sacks. He said, quote, "It's hard to do out of pads. The offensive lineman can't hit shoulder pads and grab, and the defensive lineman, if they get an edge, you try not to hold the guy. That's hard to judge at this point. It's great they're getting off the ball, but all of that comes into play when the pads come on," end quote. About Christian Izien, he said, quote, "He was pretty much our unsung hero last year defensively. He can make a lot of plays. He can do a lot of things. I'm just happy to see him healthy and out there flying around again," end quote. Then about rookie Benjamin Morrison, quote, "We got a sample of what he can do when healthy. Obviously, he's got quick feet. He's very smart and sticky cornerback, sticking on the receivers. We've just got to keep bringing him along and get the scheme down. He looked good," end quote. Then you had Baker Mayfield with a tip of the cap to the defense saying, quote, "Yeah, Tweez got me yesterday. I just think all the defensive backs as a whole, they are doing a really, really good job at disguising coverages. And the young guys, you can tell they are bringing them up to speed pretty quick on how to hide stuff and show it late. So they are doing a good job breaking on passes, making plays, and so on. I mean, we have a lot of depth back there. It's hard to name all of them, but I mean, Ben Morrison is a guy that just seeing him out there, he is moving around really well. Bryce Hall is moving around really well as well. Zion continues to get better. Jamel is consistent. And obviously having Tyke back there with Antoine, those guys just mess with your head. He'll be down at the line of scrimmage and run back, and it's just playing games with your head," end quote. So a couple of positive comments about second-round rookie Benjamin Morrison, and he was on the second team defense in the 11-on-11 drills as expected at this stage. But he told the media after practice that he feels great. He came in feeling the best he's felt since the surgery, which is, of course, a great sign, especially with all of the setbacks that Bucs players have had with injuries, with surgeries, things of that nature. Obviously, Morrison didn't participate in 2 of the 3 days of minicamp, but he talked about how OTAs helped get him integrated to the team and the defense, to the scheme, that he used it as a chance to get ahead in the playbook so that he wasn't having to think so much, and he just knew what he needed to do. Of course, he's not quite there yet, but taking the steps to make it second nature. And I've talked about that numerous times. There's that moment. We saw it with Zion McCollum, a couple of years back. We've seen it with Tyke Smith. We've seen it with some of the younger players, that all of a sudden there's that moment where the flip switch and they stop thinking and they just start playing. That's where you need Benjamin Morrison to be if he's going to overtake Jamel Dean for a starting spot. But he basically said that when it's an in-game situation, you have to have a full grasp on the defense and understand everything about it. And while he isn't there yet, that's what he's striving towards. Then he mentioned his mentality of playing right away and said, quote, "I don't think you get drafted and not have that mentality. I think I would be wrong if I didn't have that mentality. And I think that's the mentality you have to have. That's the mentality that every single defensive back in the room has, because we're in the NFL. So we're all competing. We know what it is. Everyone wants to be the best. Everyone wants to compete. But at the end of the day, only 2 or 3 cornerbacks can play. You have to put your best foot forward out here during this training camp and then preseason, and then see how it all shakes out," end quote. He's taking the right approach and the right steps. So it's going to be interesting to see if or when he starts to make enough of those plays that he works his way over to the first team defense in 11-on-11s. He's still getting to go up against Egbuka and Evans, which he talked about. And then, at some point he'll get to go against Godwin. He's not going to really move anywhere up the ladder. He's not really going to move the needle if he's beating out Trey Palmer or Dennis Houston or Ryan Miller on reps. He's going to have to shut down Egbuka, which he did manage to do during OTAs, but he's going to have to shut down Mike or J-Mac during a practice to really start turning heads and give himself a chance to play right away. That said, I don't think he does play right away unless there's an injury. Evan mentioned it on yesterday's show. McCollum is pretty much locked in as your cornerback 1. Jamel Dean is your cornerback 2. Then you have Izien and Parrish battling at nickel. But we already knew that it wasn't likely that Morrison started the season and that he's still coming back from missing almost an entire year of football. But I would be encouraged right now by some of the things that Bowles has pointed out, as well as the mentality that Morrison is bringing into these practices, the fact that he's already gotten Baker's attention during some of this play. So I would be encouraged there. You want to continue to see that go on an upwards trajectory. But there was, however, another rookie that was standing out and getting some nice things said about them. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where game day comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money that you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes all of that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. You all know that I've used Game Time to take my sons to numerous sporting events and concerts. I just used them again to score tickets to another concert that I'll be attending with my son in October, and Game Time's zone deals landed me a fantastic deal with an even better view. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. The Locked On NFL Top 100 is here. Voted on by the NFL hosts and the Locked On Podcast Network. Our Top 100 was formed by experts that cover these teams and players every day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, don't miss my reaction to where Bucs players landed on this list or Bucs players that didn't land at all on last week's show titled Two Key Buccaneers Left Off Top 100. Emeka Egbuka is going to be a big part of this Bucs offense to start the season. I mean, truly, he is going to play a pivotal role in any success that they have early on in the year. Benjamin Morrison talked about the guy that was drafted one round before him, saying, quote, he was drafted in the first round for a reason. He's a really talented receiver. It's a privilege that I can go against him every single day because it's going to make me better, and hopefully I can make him better every single day. You have to look at what he did at Ohio State. He was productive all of his years there, understanding that a guy with his success, how I want to go against him every single day because ultimately it's going to make me better and I'm going to make him better, end quote. Baker was asked about how things are going incorporating Egbuka into the offense, and he said, quote, extremely well. I mean, like a day like today where Mike is not practicing, you can put Emeka in anywhere. It really is the truth. It is fun to be able to have a guy like that who is intelligent, does not act like a rookie. His head is not spinning. He's able to do it and handle it the right way. It raises the standards for everybody else. When you have a rookie coming in, learning the offense for the first time, and he pushes everybody else around. So it's great to have somebody like that, end quote. Then you go on Twitter and you see what Bucs media is saying about him. Our buddy Matt Matera from Pewter Report sent out a tweet on Thursday morning saying, I think we'll be seeing a lot of Emeka Egbuka this season. You have videos of him you have videos posted of him making a leaping touchdown catch in traffic. Then you have Baker again, this time unprompted, on the New Heights podcast, bringing up Emeka Egbuka and saying, quote, Emeka Egbuka is an absolute stud. He's the real deal. You know how you just can't teach guys leaving the ground to catch the ball? He's always grounded when he catches it. He keeps moving. There's yak potential out the wazoo there. But he's just so damn smart. And he's willing to block, willing to do everything we ask him to do. But then we can plug and play him at any of the three receiver spots right now. It's pretty exciting, end quote. Not only are the Bucs excited about the future with this kid, Baker is excited about the present and having him on the field right now. And this, again, takes the sting out of any delay that there might be in Godwin's return. No, they did not draft Egbuka in the first round because Godwin might miss a game or two. They drafted him because he and McMillan are the next generation of receivers for this franchise. No one wants to talk about a world where Mike Evans is retired, but that's coming a lot sooner than it is later. Hopefully it's not for a couple more years, but it's still, he's winding down his career. Then you have Godwin on a 3-year deal. Will he continue playing beyond that? It puts him at 31 years old when he's going to hit free agency again, which in football years, it's not old, but it's not young anymore. So he might have some time left, but he's also had some really severe injuries where he might get to the end of this contract and say, you know what? I've had my knee completely blown up. I've had my ankle flipped around so bad that my foot was pointing in the opposite direction that it should. Maybe I don't want to put my body through this anymore. I have a son. I have a family. I want to be able to run around and play with him. I've won a Super Bowl. I've made generational money. I'm going to walk away. That's an uncertainty that, a show in 2028 can discuss here on this, on this podcast, but that is the reality of all of it. McMillan and Egbuka are the next wave of receivers, and the Bucs will probably draft another one, in a higher round within the next 3 years to have their new trio moving forward. But to have your franchise quarterback this excited about a rookie receiver, despite all of the other weapons that he already has, speaks volumes about how good he can be. This was already an unbelievably electric offense. Mike, Chris, McMillan, Shep, Otten, Bucky, Rashad, Durham, Colt, like weapons on weapons on weapons. So Baker was already going to be excited about this season. He already knew that this team was capable of dropping 30 or 40 points on any given week. But to have him talking this glowingly, and again, I go back to his appearance on New Heights with Travis and Jason Kelce, unprompted. You would think that the Kelce brothers might have asked him a question about the rookies. Baker didn't even wait. He was so excited to talk about this kid that he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to put this out there now before you even have a chance to bring it up because I want to talk about it. That's why I'm so high on this Bucs offense. I was already going to be high on the offense, even without a selection like Egbuka. But adding him to this team, seeing the people talk about his footwork on Twitter, just go on Twitter and search Emeka Egbuka and look at all of the tweets that roll through. Look at the people talking about his footwork that I mentioned on that film review episode that I did, where I said he's not quite at the level yet, but when I'm watching him play at Ohio State and his route running, his footwork is reminding me of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. This kid has the opportunity to be incredibly special in this league. You are going to see, clips from training camp. You're going to see other people talking about how this kid's the real deal, and he's in the right offense to really be able to shine and explode. So I'll leave it with this. If you're in a fantasy league, you're getting ready to draft, you're in a couple of fantasy leagues, you need to be drafting Emeka Egbuka. He is going to be a huge part of the offense when the season starts, and then he's going to be at minimum a weekly flex play once Godwin is back to 100%. Guys, he's going on average between the 10th and the 12th round, and he is outside the top 45 wide receivers that are being taken. Scoop him up in the 9th and watch the rest of your league absolutely rage and implode when he's racking up, wide receiver 2 numbers and, winning you games in the first month, while other rookies and other receivers that were taken ahead of him, wide receiver 2s for teams, slot receivers for teams, those guys that were taken ahead of him that aren't even going to come close to scoring the kinds of points that he is right out of the gate. Some final notes coming out of day 2. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready. Make sure you put Emeka Egbuka on it and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and Locked On Bucs are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy numerous times throughout all my years playing, and let me tell you, there's no cleaner or more user-friendly platform out there than Yahoo. The info, the layout, everything about the process is as easy as possible on Yahoo. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win, and it all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Wrapping things up here on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, and the Buccaneers have made a roster move. They have signed offensive guard Michael Jordan. Not that guard, Michael Jordan. No. This one is from Cincinnati, not North Carolina. But Jordan started 11 games for the Patriots last season and has started 40 games in his career since being drafted by the Bengals in the 4th round of the 2019 draft. He's played for the Bengals, the Panthers, and the Patriots. Now, again, this is a guard. So I'm not sure this addresses the problem that you have. The Bucs worked out George Fant. They worked out Chris Hubbard, who played with Baker in Cleveland because they're thin at tackle. And as if the worst injury didn't already start to deplete their depth, they moved Garrett Greenfield to the reserve retired list. So they've lost even more depth at tackle. That leaves Heck and Gedeke as your starters. Worse is injured. Undrafted rookie Ben Chukwuma as your only backup left tackle. And Lorenz Metz is your only backup right tackle. That's not good. That's not good, guys. Bulls mentioned that last year's draft pick, Elijah Klein, has some flexibility at tackle and center, but I personally am not super confident that a guy that didn't play a single snap last year is all of a sudden going to be a swing depth piece on the outside of the offensive line. The problem is there isn't much out there on the open market for the Bucs to be able to sign a guy. There's Fant, there's Hubbard, you have Tyron Smith, Jedrick Willis, Andrew Speed, Michael Dunn, Jermaine Ifedi. These are not names that are going to instill a ton of confidence in fans if they have to go into a game. If you're a free agent tackle still available after all 32 teams have started training camp, then there's a reason for that. That said, the Bucs still have to bring someone, maybe two guys in order to have some depth. You can't have both tackle spots only have a starter and a backup. You need at least one more body out there that can potentially play on either side. The other thing is you need to get them into the building soon. You need to give them as much time as humanly possible to, learn the offense, to start to develop a rapport with the other guys on the offensive line. They need to get into shape. These guys didn't go to OTAs or mini camps or anything else because they haven't had a team. That's going to be another issue, is how long is it going to take them to get into game shape while also learning the offense and getting acclimated to everything else. No, I do not think that Jason Light needs to waste draft capital to trade for someone. In fact, I think it would be a mistake to do so. But the Bucs need a body in here sooner than later, and I'm not really sure what signing a guard is going to do for you outside of if you're going to give him a crack at playing, tackle, or you have faith in one of these other guys like Luke Haggard or Raekwon O'Neal to make the switch over to tackle. I mean, Jordan has some good size to him. He's 6'6", 315, but I don't know if he can all of a sudden make the switch to the outside. I guess we'll see if that's the plan or if the Bucs have another move coming up in the next day or so. As I'm saying that, the Bucs have made another move. So we're going to squeeze this in here at the very end of the show. The Bucs are signing former Chargers offensive tackle Tyler McMillan. So I guess that's an answer to that question. In order to make room on the roster, the Bucs have waived Silas Danzy with a failed physical designation. That is from Rick Stroud, as I am trying to get caught up with this news in real time. So McMillan is 6'8", 355. Small school guy. You know that's Jason Light's specialty. But the Bucs apparently now bringing in 2 new offensive linemen, so we can all take a small collective breath that there's at least a little depth there now. We're going to see how it all shakes out. I still think it would be in the Bucs' best interest to bring in another guy, maybe one of the guys that they worked out in Fant or Hubbard. Again, Baker played with Hubbard in Cleveland. So, I would think that he would have some information as to whether or not that's going to be a positive signing for them. But you're still looking at only 5 tackles on the roster right now until until Tristan Wirfs returns. So yeah. Guard Michael Jordan, tackle Tyler McMillan. It does not look like McMillan has played in an NFL game yet. I haven't been able to find any kind of information on him from that aspect. Might have been practice squad last year. So I will he played for FCS Campbell before joining the Chargers last year. But yeah, it doesn't show any games played last season for the Chargers. So young guy, probably a little bit developmental, but Jason loves his small school offensive linemen. He's had a lot of really good luck with them. This could have been a guy that they had their eye on during the draft process last year or during undrafted free agency and didn't get the opportunity to bring him in. So a couple of offensive linemen to add some depth to the team. You love to see that. That is going to do it for this episode. I will have my way too early 53-man roster prediction coming up over the weekend. Going to get that out to you as soon as possible. Until then, please check out everything going on over on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs. Follow on TikTok at Locked On Bucs, Instagram at Locked On Bucs, at Locked On Bucs across everything. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. If you want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider, it's really, really simple. Like this episode on YouTube and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.